Hey everyone, today I am joined by Jones from Excellent Health. He's got his own YouTube channel where he shares numerous videos on health topics, lifestyle, diet, and he gives some really educational advice. So I thought I would have him on to talk about his journey, how he came to learn everything that he knows, and hopefully be able to share some of that information with you. So, Jones, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Very well, thanks. We're actually in the same time zone, which is really
Thankfully.
really handy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, do you want to start by introducing yourself, letting people know who you are and what you do?
Yeah, sure. Essentially, I'm just a guy who's cared about health ever since I was young. It started around 13. I wanted muscles. And so, I started looking up how to increase testosterone. And then an article told me to quit sugar. So I did, like in 2 weeks' time, almost immediately. And it continued from there. These past 8 years, I've just been experimenting, trying to see what works. And then, my social circle, they started picking up on these things. So whenever I started talking about health with them, they seemed intrigued. And so I thought, okay, why don't I start making videos? And the internet became intrigued. And so Excellent Health was born. And, I just upload videos talking about stuff that's health related, trying to help people. And that's it, really. I mean, if you want me to get into the details of how I, you know, learned specific things, that I talk about on my YouTube channel, I can get into that if you want to.
Yeah, well, if you just wanted to talk about a little bit more on like if you had any sort of health issues that triggered it, or it was just general interest and you always were just interested in becoming healthy. Did you have to heal anything or go on that journey? Because a lot of people actually find themselves in a healthy lifestyle because they had some sort of trigger where they had to heal themselves in some way.
You know, at 13, it wasn't that I had any specific health problems. It was just that I wanted to rise in the social hierarchy by building muscles. It was a superficial reason. When I started caring about health, that's when it all started. That's when I got issues. And maybe because, you've got more years of accumulated damage eating in the way that, most people in modern society do. So the damage, the acne, the gut issues, the vertigo, the low blood sugar, the a little bit of hair loss, all of these things that I experienced, also eczema since I was young, but that didn't really affect me a lot. All of that, you know, came crashing in my face when I became vegan. So I became vegan at 15, like maybe September, around September, October, November 2017, and I stopped being vegan in July 2019. So that's, a little bit less than 2 years. I developed so many problems. And the problem is, I interviewed Veronica and she said that she had been indoctrinated into thinking that if you eat anything with animal products in them, that's a bad thing. And it was the same for me. All of this came from a guy called Vegan Gains. You might know who that is, but he's basically a vegan bodybuilder. And he used to talk about how, you know, you get bitch tits if you drink milk, cholesterol will give you, dietary cholesterol that is, will give you a heart attack, and animal protein will increase you'll oxidize your blood lipids and you'll die. And so I said, okay, well, if animal products are unhealthy, I don't want to be unhealthy. I want to look like him because he had big muscles. He looked all right at the time. Still, he had a little bit of vegan face, but but still. um so I said, okay, well, if he's got muscles and he's saying that animal products are unhealthy, let me, do what he does. I did. I got a bunch of bloating. I remember in ninth grade, like I used to eat breakfast sometimes, and sorry for the details, I used to shit twice in one morning. And I used to think to myself, how did I just shit twice in the morning? Like I had less than an hour before, you wake up and then you have to go to school. That period for me was less than an hour and I shat twice. Like that's not how the digestive system is supposed to work. And then it used to be like that every morning. And then like at 10, 11, 12 a.m. in school, I used to get extremely bloated. And in school, like you'd think that you could go to the toilet and fart, but you're concerned about someone hearing it. So I didn't. So I just held everything in, and I had this insane stomach pain all day. And this continued, during the first year of high school too, like the entire ninth grade and in high school too. And it was because of the vegan diet. I was eating a lot of legumes, a lot of bread, peanut butter. It was a whole foods vegan diet. It was a healthy vegan diet. Of course, it was devoid of nutrients, and it really, really damaged my intestinal lining. But still, yeah, if you show the average person what I was eating, they'd think it's healthy. So yeah, I damaged my gut lining severely, and you know, a few months of being vegan in ninth grade, I got severe acne, like severe cystic acne, and that continued until I started eating meat. Um, then the thing that removed the acne, because the acne was my main thing really. I didn't think a lot about the digestive issues because I had a good relationship with pain, if we want to say it that way. I did a lot of cold exposure and this and that. I liked running a lot, exercising a lot. The David Goggins mindset, if you know who
Yeah,
that is.
that reminds me
Uh,
of
s-
myself because I had acne and digestive problems, but I was more concerned with the acne as well.
exactly,
Yeah, you kind
exactly.
of just I just thought, no one can see that I've got digestive problems, but everybody can see that I've got acne. So that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, exactly. When it comes to the farting, I thought, okay, let me just hold it in. But but with but with the acne, I mean, I can't hold the acne in. Um, so the acne went away once I ate a bunch of liver in 1 month. And by the way, Vegan Gains indoctrinated me into veganism. The guy that indoctrinated me, or not indoctrinated me, but removed the brainwashing was Frank Tufano. Frank Tufano, I thank him for uploading those videos that he did upload a long time ago. When he started talking about animal products being healthy, being nutrient dense, I thought, well, okay. I mean, if I can get grass fed meat, then sure. Like, cause you know how you've got these ideas about veganism being healthy. You take the entire identity of being vegan, and then you push your identity onto the environmental and the ethical stuff too. But in reality, I was a fraud. I didn't care about the environmental stuff and the ethical stuff, even though I talked about it like an annoying vegan would, to my social circle. I only cared about health, and that's what I realized. And when I started eating meat again, and so again, I started eating meat again. Acne got a lot better. I didn't have any constipation. Like some people say that if you haven't eaten meat for a long time and then you eat meat again, you'll get constipated. You'll get digestive problems. I didn't get anything. Like it got digested better than anything I had eaten in those 2 years of veganism.
But you
Then,
started with eating cooked meat
yeah,
and you
cooked meat,
still
of
were
course.
able to digest that. Yep.
Yeah, 100%. Like it was, and the meal that I ate in the beginning, it wasn't high in fat at all. It was pretty lean meat, no constipation at all. Like it digested perfectly. But then, I still had acne, but not as much. So Frank Tufano had said, made the connection between acne medicine and vitamin A, that acne medicine, Accutane, isotretinoin, is synthetic vitamin A. And the reason it works is because it's vitamin A. Vitamin A heals the gut lining. You need it to stitch up your gut, and for many other reasons related to making function. It needs vitamin A. Again, the gut lining and the skin. I mean, it's sort of the same thing, really. If you trace it, if you trace the skin into the mouth and then into the digestive system and into the rectum, geometrically speaking, the entire surface area is one big surface area. So that tells you a little bit about how the skin and the gut is connected. They're literally connected.
Mhm.
But anyway, so he said that eating liver will give you the effects of acne medicine, but you won't get the side effects. So I said, all right, let me eat a bunch of liver. So I got liver from the company that I was getting meat from. And again, I ate cooked liver, not raw liver, cooked liver, a lot of cooked liver for a month. Like we're talking several kilograms. And a doctor would say that I would get, what's it called, vitamin A poisoning, hypervitaminosis A. I didn't get anything because I was probably very deficient in vitamin A for my entire life. And yeah, 90% of the acne cleared up. At this point, and even the year after that, so we're talking August 2019 to August 2020, I always had to fast so that I didn't get acne. I had to keep my insulin very low. But anyway, in November 2019, because of Frank Tufano again, I stumbled upon a video that he has made about Argenus wonderplanets. And I thought the stuff that he said about Argenus was interesting. So I said, okay, let me look this guy up. So I looked him up. I watched a little bit of a 50-minute interview, and then I didn't watch anything again. But then, a few days later, I thought, okay, I saw the video pop up on YouTube again. So I thought, okay, let me look him up again. So then I found a video that was 5 hours long, and it was an Argenus workshop. And when I came back from school, I used to lay on the ground in the darkness and listen to videos. That's how I did most of my learning. And so I thought, okay, let me listen to this video. And so I listened during the course of a few days, I listened to the entire video. And immediately what happened to my brain was, I want raw milk. I need raw butter. I need to try raw meat. Like I got all of these ideas. So what I did was I started sourcing these foods. And with the meat, I already had meat. So the thing was, okay, I need to eat it raw and I need to verify that I won't get sick. And so I ate it raw and I didn't get sick. The problem wasn't eating it raw. The problem was hiding it from my parents. But thankfully, they accepted it like 3 days later. And I'm very strong headed. So, they had to accept that I was going to eat raw meat. Then I was a little bit concerned about raw ground beef. But then I tried it and I didn't get sick. So then I knew that Arginus was right 100% because I didn't get sick. And I kept eating it, didn't get sick, didn't get sick, didn't get sick. So then instead of eating cooked meat, I started eating raw meat because, of course, I understood the arguments that Arginus had made for raw meat. And so I just, like, even now, I know that it's superior in every single way. The only thing that would be better with cooked meat is it's harder to digest, and so you'll use more energy. If your digestive system uses more energy, you might get warmer. That's just one thing. You might get warmer if you eat cooked meat because it takes more energy to digest. And so Frank Tufano talks about, if you eat raw meat, you're going to be cold. Again, it depends on your body. But again, I don't think it's worth it. I don't think, I think there are other things that you could consume to become warm. I think there are other things you could do. But again, that's one thing. That's the only thing that cooked meat would have over raw meat.
What do you
So
think
I
about,
introduced
sorry, I'm just going to add something in here. What do you think about a cooked steak being more, it would exercise your jaw muscles more than a raw steak? Do you think that's the case?
I don't think that at all. I think raw meat is going to be like, especially with chicken. If you've tried raw chicken, a chicken drumstick is far softer when you cook it in relation to
Yes, for
its raw
chicken it is,
state.
yeah. Because
Yeah, but maybe
I've, yeah, I found if I was eating mostly, well, raw mince, that's very soft. And then if you just chew into a raw steak, of course, there's, going to be the um tendons or gristle that is quite, chewy. But then yeah, I just wondered, they're not too different, a cooked steak and a raw steak in the amount of power it requires your jaw to be chewing, I guess.
I think when it comes to jaw exercise, it's mostly about the cut, not if it's cooked or raw. So if you've got like I sometimes buy that just for jaw exercise. It's pretty hard to eat when it's raw, but if you were to cook it, it would still be fairly hard to chew. Maybe a little bit easier because,
What was
it
it?
gets broken down.
It cut out
Raw ox
exactly what you
meat.
said. Ox
Oh,
meat?
sorry, it was raw ox meat.
Raw ox meat, yeah.
Um, but with ground beef, I mean, if you cook it or you eat it raw, it's going to be a little bit softer, of course, if you eat it raw. But still, it's all about the cut. You're going to get the same jaw exercise, like which is basically zero if you eat cooked ground beef or raw ground beef. So it's all about the cut. It's not about whether it's raw or cooked. But that's just my opinion. But anyway, so the main point for me talking about the raw meat stuff was the day after I ate raw meat, I experienced the biggest energy boost in my life. Like usually when I used to wake up, I used to be groggy. That day I had a bunch of energy. So I thought, "Oh my god, okay. Let me continue eating this stuff." Like I need it. I was excited because I had found something amazing. I had unlocked this food group. So the second thing on my mind was I need to find raw butter. And so I found raw butter, luckily in a store that was pretty close to my high school. So during the lunch break, I went on a walk into the store and I looked inside of it. Like it was amazing. It was picturesque. It was an amazing, beautiful store. I went in there, there was classical music playing, and then I looked around for the place where they would have the dairy products. I found this amazing room with lots of cheese and lots of milk. Went in there and I found it. It said unpasteurized butter. I went, "Oh my god. I found it." So I got one and I bought it. Went home and then I tried it, but I tried a little bit because I thought that butter would give me more acne. I thought that saturated fat would make me break out. It didn't. It just made me feel better. And so slowly, and this, no, I wouldn't say slowly. Very quickly, I started eating a lot of raw butter every day. So I increased it. I put it in the meat meal and I started increasing the amount. Like a few months later, I was eating 250 grams of raw butter in a day, and that coupled with a bunch of exposure during the summer in 2020, that's truly when I became like healthy. Like my appearance really changed, the way I felt really changed, and I gained a bunch of weight. So if I were to describe my journey very quickly, it was first uh, the standard bodybuilding diet worked all right. Cooked eggs, broccoli, some tuna here and there, meat, rice, all of this and that. This was before the veganism. During the veganism, peanut butter, um, a bunch of peanut butter, a bunch of oatmeal, legumes, rice, tofu. I was able to build a little bit of muscle, of course, because the body's miraculous. It will do something with everything you give it, but still it damaged me a lot. The negative aspects of the diet far outweighed any positives, and there were barely any positives except taste. It was pretty tasty, honestly. I like that kind of food. um Not mentally, of course, but from a taste perspective. And then, I went on raw, no, not raw paleo, just paleo, broccoli and meat, but not paleo because I was eating grains. Then autogenous style, for like, and one meal a day, lots of fasting too during 2020. Same thing during 2021. And then now, like in 2024 and also 2023, I started eating much more fruits. So my diet was very devoid of plant matter. And I find that adding in plant matter gives you some of the positive aspects that you would find in plants. So carbohydrates, very good for gaining weight, and then you've also got vitamin C. And of course, yeah, I mean, people say that if you go on a zero carb diet, you won't need a lot of vitamin C because vitamin C and carbohydrates take out each other. So if you don't eat any carbohydrates, your vitamin C requirements are far less. But I think in modern society, with everything that might cause oxidative stress, getting a bunch of vitamin C is definitely a good idea. Uh, but yeah, the diet I haven't switched from ever since November 2019. Of course, I've been modifying it. Is the raw primal diet by Diogenes Planets. I haven't found anything better, and I wouldn't say that it's a diet. It's a it's principles. It's nutrition principles, and they're not really related to any type of diet with what humans should consume. That's it.
Yeah, you started this journey from a very young age because considering that you were doing all these diet trialings, you were going through high school, that's very incredible because it's very rare. Um, like what did your friends think? I'm curious.
My friends, I
During high
mean,
school.
yeah, I remember having on the in the lunch break because I didn't eat at school. Um, I was fasting. I didn't eat breakfast,
Mm,
and
okay.
I didn't eat at school, so I ate when I came home. So I fasted until like 4 or 5 o'clock every day, even when I was eating raw meat in the beginning. During the lunch break, I thought, okay, well, I don't have any raw butter. So let me go and buy raw butter. And I was hungry because I was fasting. Of course, this is not something I recommend, but still. And so I take out the raw butter, like in the classroom, and I like take a big bite, and my friends start laughing. Um, but that was because I had told them that I was doing that. What I did do sometimes was I went into the toilet and I opened the raw butter and I took a bite out of it because I didn't want anyone to think I was weird. But of course it's not weird. It's just a human consuming stuff. But no, I mean they it was an interesting aspect. Like most people are self-centered. Everyone is essentially self-centered. There's no way around it. You only experience the stuff you experience. So people hear about it and they go, "Oh, okay," and then they forget about it 5 minutes later. And then okay, you become known as someone who does these things, but people really don't care about the stuff you do as much as you think. So they didn't really they thought it was dangerous, but then they accepted it, or they didn't accept that they thought it was. It's hard to explain because I don't know. I can't be in their brains, but I don't think anyone cared as much as I think they might have cared. But even then, I didn't really care, if you
Yeah.
know what I mean. But
Yeah.
but I'll tell you this. I'll tell you this. Nowadays, um, girls especially, I mean, it's polarizing. Girls that are into health, they don't really they think it's a good thing, not the raw meat stuff specifically, but the fact that I'm interested in health. But most girls, like when they hear about me eating raw meat, either they don't care, which is the minority, or they think it's disgusting. So it affects you from that point of view, unfortunately. But still,
Okay, well, you need to find a girl that eats raw meat as well then.
yeah, but
Unless
there are like two in the world, so
really true.
pretty hard.
Yeah. Um, okay, so you have been eating and following the principles of the autogenous like lifestyle and way of eating for a while now. So do you want to describe what a day of eating would be like for you?
Yeah, this one's interesting because we need to get into food availability and specifics of nutrition so that no one gets confused. What I eat is not something that anyone else should eat. And the reason is because I don't eat what I necessarily would like to eat. I eat according to food availability, what I have access to. If I had access to other things, then I would eat in a different way. So the way I eat now is a reflection of my food availability. But there's a basic pattern in how I eat, and then there's also situational stuff that I consume based on what my body's telling me. And so you have to have the ability to understand what your body wants if you're going to mimic the specific foods that I eat. But the basic pattern is, and the basic pattern has been the basic pattern since March 2021. All my raw animal foods are consumed like this. You've got raw fermented milk together with raw ground beef and raw butter. That's my basic meat meal. I eat it like 2 to 3 times a day, sometimes once if like I forget about eating because I don't really get hungry anymore. Or I can sustain myself for an entire day without any problems. And you get that ability. That's an interesting side effect of the diet. But if I do that, of course I'll lose weight. But again, that's the way I consume animal products. Then sometimes I eat fruit. Like I know if I need a certain fruit or not. Like my body tells me, oh, eat dates, oh, eat pineapple, oh, eat papaya. And it's hard to detect for most that I can detect it. Of course, all fruit is eaten with fat, so that you don't spike your blood sugar. Of course, you'll activate the Randall cycle, but if you're young like me and you don't care about gaining weight and spiking insulin, then it's not a big problem. Again, when you get older, maybe you should eat fruit by itself, even though you're spiking your blood sugar. Um, then you've also got vegetable juices. I do them. They're very beneficial. I've found that for some reason, if I only stick to animal foods, I might get an increase in heart rate. If I drink vegetable juices, that goes down. And so that means for some reason my body is more efficient. Like if your heart needs to pump a lot, then that means that There's something going on, and it needs to pump blood to some place. It needs to pump more blood for some reason. If you consume something and your heart rate goes down and there are no other symptoms, it's like it's only a positive effect, then your body became more efficient, or at least the cardiovascular system became more efficient. Another thing I do sometimes for glucose is I take cooked starch, mainly potatoes. I boil them, then I peel them, and then without any salt, without anything, I just mix them with raw butter. When the potatoes aren't hot enough to burn my hand, they're at a comfortable warmness, and I consume that. That's also for weight gain. That's also, again, for glucose, preventing catabolism. But I don't do that very often. I usually, from a carbohydrate perspective, I usually do dates. The raw milk also contains a bunch of carbohydrates as well, so I'm not really going to be in catabolism that much. But that's my basic diet. I mean, it's very simple. And again, it's a reflection of food availability. I sometimes eat raw chicken. I've found that because I've eaten raw red meat for such a long time, my body wants more white meat. Again, they're different. The tissue is different. So the nutrient profiles are different. So the way your body will give you a signal depending on what nutrients it wants, what it wants to accomplish, really. So my body wants to accomplish more with white meat, so it tells me to eat white meat. The problem is, economically, white meat is far more expensive where I'm at than red meat. So I usually consume red meat for that reason. Ground beef is far more cheap than anything else I have access to. Otherwise, I would probably be eating raw chicken every day, honestly speaking. So again, this is because of food availability and the things I eat outside of the raw animal foods. I eat them because they're situational, because my body's telling me to eat those. It's not because this is a specific food that I eat is supposed to be eaten by someone else. So that's why when I give nutrition advice, I always say follow principles and get the best stuff you've got access to. That's the most important thing. But anyway, I think I tackled what I ate in a day pretty well.
Yeah. So, what about, do you eat seafood or raw cheese? Do you eat those as well, or?
Raw cheese is hard. Raw eggs too. I didn't get into raw eggs. Because of the veganism, or I'll tell you this. When I went out of veganism, the first thing I ate was, yeah, it was an egg. And the problem is, before, when I was young, before veganism, like I could eat eggs. No problems at all. No allergies, nothing. I ate an egg. And oh my god, I got the worst, not the worst allergic reaction, but probably, yeah, from a pain perspective, the worst one. But it's not something where you would need to go to the hospital. My nose got completely blocked. My face became red. My eyes started itching. My ear started itching. My throat swelled up, and I puked the egg, like half an hour later. And every time I did an experiment with eggs, I got the same thing. And even now, if I take, like, I'm talking, imagine you crack an egg into a bowl and you put your little finger in it, and then you, like, lick a little bit of the egg. If I do that 3 times, instant throat itch. So I have a problem with raw eggs. Hopefully that goes away in the future. So I can't consume them. Otherwise, I would consume them. So that's why I say that no one should mimic my diet because it's very specific to my situation. When it comes to raw cheese, I can't find unsalted raw cheese. Like I've been thinking about salt for a long time, and I've decided to not consume salt. I did that a long time ago. I did that in 2021. It has worked out great so far. I can only find salted raw cheese, and I abstain from that. I don't really need it. But in the beginning, trying to follow the autogenous diet, with every meat meal, I was eating raw cheese, but I didn't have access to raw milk, so it was raw cheese instead of raw milk. Um, and then when it comes to seafood, seafood is really expensive. So that's why I don't eat it that often. But I have tried fish. I've been afraid of fish because of all the pollution. I've been afraid of seafood in general because of all the pollution. But recently, I've been doing a little bit of oysters, and I mean that works great. You also get iodine, which you don't really get from the land animals. You only get it from seafood. You might get a little bit, but still, it's not enough. So yeah, I think that ancestrally seafood has been a huge part of our diet, hence why we really need DHA. That's why our brain is so filled with DHA. Like from animal foods, you are going to get a lot of DHA, especially if you eat the brain. But I think it makes more sense that humans have consumed a lot of seafood for a majority of their existence. So yeah, sometimes, but the
Yeah.
pollution makes it hard.
Okay. Yeah, well, that was a good explanation of the foods you eat. Are there any other health practices that you want to mention that you do?
Oh my God, there are many. The thing is, many of them come automatically. So I'll give you it in a nutshell. If you imagine a human being out in nature, everything they're exposed to, I try to expose myself to. Anything that is new that you'd be exposed to in modern society, I try to limit. So with this, if we were to fractionate this, for the avoidance stuff, you get okay, you need to avoid EMF. And EMF is the magnetic field, the electric field, and radio frequency. All of those three are EMF. And so when I say EMF, people think that it's all about your cell phone. It's all about the Wi-Fi. It's all about the router. No, no. If you anything with anything that has electricity running through it will create a magnetic field and an electrical field. So even the if you've got an electrical shaver and you're trimming your ball sack, I mean that's emitting EMF into your ball sack. You see, that's the EMF awareness that some people that might think that it's only your phone. You shouldn't have your phone in your pocket. Yeah, of course. And it's even a far bigger EMF source because it's got all of this radio frequency from the Wi-Fi and the mobile data and this and that. So always put your phone on airplane mode. But even an electrical trimmer will emit EMF. So you have to be careful about that. This mic is probably emitting EMF into my face, but still you know, we we record this stuff for content. So I'll take the sacrifice. Um, then you've got pollution avoidance. Like if we're fractionating what a human being shouldn't be exposed to, or is exposed to in modern society, you've got pollution. You've got pollution everywhere. You've probably got particles, you know, nylon particles coming from the pop filter on this microphone. That's pollution avoidance. That's pollution awareness. You've got polyester, no polyester clothes. Threw away all of that because it's made of plastic. Like I didn't make the connection before, but then I made it and I said, okay, no, I need to throw all of this out because, like, if I wouldn't put a plastic fork in my mouth, why am I wearing plastic clothes? Like, they're pretty close to your nose. You'll be breathing that in. If your blanket is made of polyester and at night you're sleeping with it pressed into your face, you're breathing in plastic. You're getting a bunch of plastic into you. Like, no wonder people's testosterone levels are so low. Like, if you're a woman and your testosterone levels are low, sure. But a man, Um, what do we have more? So with pollution awareness, I mean, you've also got the nutrition stuff. Like even the people that follow me, many don't understand that whatever fruit or vegetable or food that you're eating, uh, it's always going to contain pollution. Like if it's something is not organic, even if it's organic, I'm careful. Like you have to have very heightened senses when it comes to fruits and vegetables. If it's not organic, it has pesticides on it, like 100%, unless you know the guy that grew the stuff. So that's also pollution awareness. That's something I try to avoid, and that might seem to be something that's not related to, or something that's related to nutrition. But again, the pollution that's on the food is not related to nutrition. It's pollution itself. It's not. It shouldn't be a part of the food, though, even though it might be. Um, then you've got sun exposure and you've got grounding. Like if you look at it's also exposed to the electromagnetic field that the Earth emits, the surface electrons of the Earth. So if you put your foot on the ground, you get electrons, and your body does a lot with electrons. So like the reason why vitamin C and vitamin E are so good is because they donate electrons. So whatever is becoming oxidized, i.e., losing electrons, is getting electrons. So that's why earthing, getting surface electrons, acts as an antioxidant. That's why it lowers, you could say inflammation, but it's not really inflammation, it's cell damage. So I do that, especially during the summer, because during the winter, you can't do that. Unless, you're all right with blue feet. Um, but sun exposure in general, I think that Vitamin D is absolutely essential. Without it, you die. And the only way to get it is through the sun. So, you know, it is absolutely 100% essential that you sunbathe without sunscreen when the UV index is high. You need to get like 10,000 to 20,000 IUs of vitamin D a day. It's very important. Like if you care about health and you're not doing that, do it. Like it's almost as important as, getting a lot of nutrients in because it is a nutrient itself. Then, I mean, again, you can summarize it into the things that a human being is exposed to in nature and the things that a human being is exposed to in modern society. Again, avoid the things that we're exposed to in modern society, like EMF and pollution, and get the stuff that we're exposed to in nature that we're not exposed to anymore, which is, a bunch of UVB radiation and, electrons, surface electrons from the ground. That's basically it. And also meditation. There's also this. It's interesting because if you're a organism like that's as advanced as a human being, you start to wonder where is consciousness being generated from, and of course, it comes from the body. But then, how does it work? Why is it that I'm experiencing anything in the first place? And if you want to answer all of these questions about life, you meditate. But even then, if you just care about health, the absolute best way of improving the quality of your life is through meditating, because you just remove all of the baggage that's inside of here. And so when you wake up in the morning, when you look outside, everything is beautiful. And so yeah, you make the world a better place. And your life becomes better, and the only thing people care about is happiness. So yeah, why not meditate? So that's
Yeah,
something I do too.
I definitely agree with that. Okay. And for people who are, I guess, inspired by our discussion and haven't started on this path yet, but they're interested in it, what would be your best advice to people looking to improve their health?
Like do you mean when it comes to, because there's a difference between knowing about something and then needing help when it comes to executing it, and the specific steps you should take. Like you're eager to do something, but you don't know what to do. Do you mean what people should do so that they actually implement the stuff that they already know about, or what the steps that they should take?
Well, I guess explain a mix of both because I feel like they kind of go together.
Sure. Like when it comes to executing, the main system for me that I always describe to people is understanding, eliminating, and then adding or replacing. That's basically how you become healthy. So, at first, you understand. You need to know what to do. And if you follow this discussion, I mean, just do what we said here. That's enough for now. But anyway, just watch health videos from people who are healthy and try to understand why the things that are unhealthy. The more knowledge you have, the more likely you are to do a specific thing in relation to that thing. So what I mean is, if someone in McDonald's, let's say this guy's drinking a milkshake, and I go in there and I start a discussion with them, a hypothetical discussion, and I ask them, "Do you think this milkshake is healthy?" And obviously they reply, "No." Everyone knows that that milkshake is unhealthy, a McDonald's milkshake, that is. And then, I say, but why is it unhealthy? And they'll tell you, oh, because it contains sugar. And then I'll ask, okay, and they'll say, because it causes diabetes. And then I ask, how does it cause diabetes? And they'll say, I don't know. You see? But me and you, we know how it causes diabetes. It spikes the blood sugar. And you'll get insulin resistant eventually. You'll destroy your mitochondria and you'll destroy your pancreas. And in the process, you're also, glycating your entire body, especially the bloodstream. And so your ability to deliver oxygen to your cells is going to be completely destroyed. You've also got hydrogenated vegetable oils in there. But again, we're just talking about fish sugar here to keep the example simple. When you have the knowledge, this knowledge that I just spewed out, you start doing things differently because you start understanding why stuff is dangerous. If you understand why stuff is dangerous and you make the connection between, okay, it actually affects me, then you'll start wanting to become healthy. Like for most people, I wouldn't say that I became healthy just because I thought the idea of health was nice. The reason I do all of this is because I've experienced the effects of being not healthy firsthand. And what you see is that all of these people on YouTube who are talking about health, they've usually been really sick. Like even Argenis Wonderplant, one of the greatest health practitioners of all time, in my opinion. Like he was the sickest dude I've ever heard of. He had two types of cancers. Um, he had to do a bunch of blood transfusions. He almost died from starvation. He tried to kill himself. There are a bunch of details to his story, but the general pattern is that once you realize the effects of being not healthy, you start becoming healthy. But if you don't want the wake up call, start with understanding, start with gaining as much knowledge about these things that you're doing as possible, and then you'll understand why you shouldn't do them. The motivation will increase. There's also the book, and this book also talks about this concept called Atomic Habits by James Clear. There's a reason why it's so popular. It will teach you about how to really organize your life's actions, how to manipulate the stuff that you do so that it becomes easier to follow a certain way of living. But all in all, it's all about mind patterns. You're just trying to change your mind patterns. If you have the mind pattern of I'm never going to eat sugar again, like I got when I was 13. I mean, I haven't eaten sugar ever since then, ever since I was 13, many many years ago. And if you get this mind pattern through understanding, then you'll achieve the exact same thing that I've been able to achieve, which is, not eating junk food at all and never even considering it. Even if I were to get $1,000 for it, never. $10,000, nope, wouldn't do it. Um, then again, we move on to eliminating. So once you've understood everything, you need to eliminate stuff. You can't just, and this is what I see, some people try to follow a healthy diet, but they haven't eliminated all the stuff yet. Like, I'm pretty hardcore when it comes to this stuff. If you're still eating junk food, you can't sit there and start thinking about, okay, I need to implement the raw primal diet. No, no, no. Your focus should be on quitting the junk food. Your focus should be on eliminating everything that's bad. Then you can replace it. Because the way I see it is, you have a big bag, and to use the stuff that's in the bag, you need to remove the stuff that's already in it. You've got a certain amount of calories that you can eat every day if we just look at nutrition. If you're still eating junk food, a lot of those calories that you would want to devote to, let's say, the healthy foods, you're not going to be able to devote um, those calories into the healthy foods because you haven't eliminated the junk food. So eliminating is just as powerful, if not more powerful, than actually adding stuff, because it's the only thing that actually frees up space. Like you can't just add stuff. You can't just suddenly have your current diet and then just put the raw primal diet on top of that and eat 6,000 calories a day. That's impossible. You have to eliminate everything first, and people miss this step. You have to focus on eliminating just as much as you focus on adding stuff. Then when you've eliminated everything, you add or replace stuff because you're replacing stuff to some degree, and you're also adding. You're replacing some of the habits and you're adding completely new habits. So that's why I use both words. But again, it stems from understanding. The only reason why I do all of the things that I do, and that's why I make YouTube videos, and that's why I'm really adamant about the people who watch me that they watch me. Because when you're exposed to these ideas, that's when you start wanting to do stuff. The reason why I started eating raw meat is because Augenis Wonderplanets influenced me into that. It was as if he was having a conversation with me. So you're influenced by the people in your social circle. Uh, if you expose yourself to people through the internet, even though they exist as sound coming from, a little bit of metal and plastic that we call the phone, your actions are still going to be influenced greatly because your brain can't tell the difference between the person and the phone and the actual person. So if you surround yourself with very healthy people, let's say on the internet, even though that's a little bit parasocial, you'll become healthy.
Yeah, that was a great explanation. And it's so true that we find most of the health influences are taking the route of education to ultimately convince people into following a healthy lifestyle, because the average person who isn't familiar with naturally healing themselves would just be thinking, how am I ever going to have the discipline to eliminate and then add in replacements that are better for me? But truly, the discipline is not difficult when you have the understanding of why. And if you, yeah, you want to say something?
It's not even discipline, honestly speaking. Like for me and you, I don't
Mhm.
think, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think you even use
Well,
discipline.
it's
I
it's
think,
naturally, yes, but I feel like discipline is the right word to use for someone at the start of the journey.
sure, sure. But the thing is, what someone should aspire to, like, yeah, they should use discipline in the beginning because if you're resisting something because of wanting to do something else, of course, that's discipline. But what happens when you understand something, if you take that route in the beginning, is the resistance completely falls apart. That's the thing. What you're resisting is, um, you know, wanting to eat junk food. You're resisting the fact that you have that desire. But if suddenly through, lots of extensive reading and understanding, you realize that this junk food, it gives me nothing whatsoever. It's detrimental, it's bad. It's just like in your brain, let's say you're not someone who takes drugs, in your brain eating junk food is like injecting heroin into your arm. If suddenly you make that connection mentally, there won't be any discipline needed. You'll just stop. And so if that doesn't happen in the beginning, hopefully that happens to the person listening later on. It will become automatic. You won't even need discipline
Yes,
because
it,
in your
it does
mind,
become automatic. That's right.
yeah, exactly. So it becomes effortless. It's the same with most things that you want to learn. In the beginning they take effort, then a master, when they do something, to some degree it's pretty effortless.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And since we're on deep and meaningful explanations, I'm going to take this conversation in a swing of a different direction, because I want to ask you a little bit of a philosophical question. What do you believe the purpose of, the human life is? Like, why do you think that we're here? What is the point of living? Because I know you're going to come up with a really, really good explanation that'll be very interesting.
I've been waiting for someone to ask me this question. Because I've been doing not a lot of thinking, but I've done a lot of reading about this subject, and thankfully I've found Peter Ralston. Peter Ralston is amazing. But here I'll give you some real. This will be very Ralstonian. Everything is a distinction. Okay, everything. So the only way for you to understand that this is a microphone and this is my nose is to distinguish between them. To understand this entire context is also a distinction. When you were born, you couldn't distinguish between, a table and what's on the table. You couldn't make any distinctions. You didn't even know that you were a human being. That is a concept. Being a human being, that's a concept. So when it comes to purpose, and listen closely, purpose and meaning in life are also distinctions within the field of experience. And the reason why we usually ask these things, why we wonder about these things, is because we think called life, and purpose is a good thing to know about it. But in reality, these are two distinctions, right? And we had to learn about them. So, in the context of being a human being, there is, of course, a purpose that you can come up with because it's all in the mind, really. Just as purpose itself is a concept, whatever purpose points to, the thought that is maybe your purpose that you point to, that's also a concept. And so it changes. It can change. You can make it whatever you want. Some person might say that, oh, playing football is my purpose, or boxing is my purpose, or making the world healthy is my purpose. But ultimately, it's a completely changeable thought that's rooted in the concept purpose that you had to learn. What I'm trying to get to is if you analyze your field very closely, you'll see that everything is a distinction. That for you to experience anything, you have to distinguish between everything. Like you have to make the distinction me, you have to make the distinction you have to make the distinction screen, microphone, lamp, teddy bear, wall, ground, door, and you know these are very simple things that we distinguish between, right? The, however complex you make it, absolutely everything in your experience is a distinction. Any thought you have, any word you say, any thing it is you're experiencing, that is a distinction. You have to distinguish between it and everything else for you to even experience that thing. Otherwise, it wouldn't exist. So if you realize that the distinctions themselves are being made in the mind, then if you take away the distinctions, what are you left with? And you're left with the thing that is true. And what is true has nothing to do with thoughts. It has nothing to do with life, because life is just a concept. It has nothing to do with purpose. It has nothing to do with meaning. It has nothing to do with the past and the future, because these things are functions of the mind. So, yeah, essentially, that's what the human experience is rooted in, this entire field of consciousness. And that's, of course, we say consciousness, but the word is not it itself. You might think that, oh, because I'm alive, I'm conscious. That's not consciousness. That's consciousness with a bunch of distinctions imposed upon it. That's to some degree or to a large degree are automatic. But again, when it comes to purpose or the meaning of life, it is what you make out of it, really. That's it. There's no definitive purpose. Because, and this is something I say in one of my videos, if there was a purpose to life, you wouldn't be free. You would be born into a world where the purpose of life, the meaning of life would be dictated. But since essentially, if we, take what I said and we look at the meaning of life now, since the meaning of life is that it's completely meaningless because meaning is a function of the mind, it is a something that a human has created. The concept of meaning itself is something that we've created. Because it is that way, we're free. We're free to create whatever we want out of life. So yeah, that's what I think. Any specific questions about that? Because maybe it was a little bit complex.
No, I think it was well explained and people can always re-listen to it if they need to hear something again that you said.
Yeah.
But I am going to ask you, what's your opinion of um family, children, a wife? I feel like you would have very traditional values, so I wanted you to go into that.
Definitely. Well, here's the thing. You've got the traditional values that are of the human world, the human mind, how that functions, how you interact with society. Ultimately, these things are distinctions. They're concepts that we've created. Of course, they're tools, just like nutrition is a concept. Family and marriage and children are also concepts. Like, you have to understand that the way human beings look at their offspring is not the same way that animals in nature look at their offspring. We have mental emotional patterns telling us that these are our children, and that's not the same thing as how animals in nature treat their children or how they think about them. They don't think about them in the same way because they don't have a prefrontal cortex like we do. It's the same with marriage. Marriage is something we've created as well. Of course, it's a tool that keeps together families, and families are the root of society. Like it's the thing that I say about society is that the most important thing in society is the individual. The individual is the cell, just like a body consists of cells. Society consists of individuals that create society. So if you want a good society, a peaceful, strong society, you need good individuals. And so you need a system for making sure that these individuals that are currently in society and those who are going to be born are going to be good human beings. And then, how to dictate whether a human being is good or not, that's another thing. But generally speaking, and as Jordan Peterson says, having two parents in a household is a significant advantage in relation to just having one parent. You need the father to teach the kid about the world. You need the father to, tell the kid that these guys are out to get you, and I'm going to teach you how to defend yourself. I'm going to teach you, I'm going to give you the tools that you need to survive in the world. I'm going to, push reality into your face so that you grow up and you become strong. But the kid, you can't just, do that to the kid. Although, like as a man, you'd love to do that, just create a soldier. You can't do that. You need the mother. You need someone to you know, give love to the kid. Because we men, we aren't like that. Um, like if you have a daughter, sure, but with a son, we impose our ideals on the son much more than we do on our daughters, because we see ourselves in the son much more than we do in our daughters. So the mother needs to, give the love to the kid so that the kid doesn't become cold hearted. And if you only have the mother, the kid becomes a pussy, if I may use that word. So that's the thing. We need both of them. We need the kid to grow up into a man, without having a cold heart so that he's kind to his fellow human beings, but we also need him to be competent. So that's why that's the basic gist of why having a family is a good idea. So marriages enforce the idea of having a two-parent household. And when we have children, that's what we call a family. And then the children are the people that will become a part of society. So that's the basic gist of those three. They're very practical for human beings, and I think we should maintain them if we want to create a society that's that's good, that's strong, that doesn't have you know degenerate values. That's what I would say.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you for sharing your opinion on that. Is there anything else that you wanted to add that we haven't discussed just yet?
No, my mind is empty. There's
Yeah,
nothing
I think
going
it
on
was a
here.
really, really good conversation. Thank you. Where can people find you?
Well, I have a YouTube channel called Excellent Health. You can check it out if you want. I make videos, um, many topics that interest many people. I have certain takes on certain health subjects, and people seem to like my takes on stuff because to some degree I'm objective. I also have an Instagram, but that's not important. I have a TikTok, but that's not important. Essentially, the only place where I'm actually productive when it comes to social media, where I could actually help you, is on YouTube.
Great. And
That's
I'll
it.
link it in the description as well.
Thank you.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much, Jones, for coming on. And maybe we can do this again sometime.
Absolutely. Thank you, Emily.
Thank you.